In this demonstration, we are going to look at a classic make versus buy decision. So incremental analysis used to decide whether our production facility is better off making a component ourselves, whether we're better off buying that component from an outside supplier. So if we look at our sample data, we read that Clementi Inc. incurs the following cost to produce 10,000 units of a subcomponent. Direct materials, $14,000. Direct labor, $18,750. Variable overhead, $21,000. Fixed overhead, $27,000. We also know that an outside supplier has offered to sell Clementi the subcomponent for $475 a unit. Part A says, if Clementi accepts the offer to buy the component, by how much will net income change? Basically, again, we're just trying to determine which is more economically beneficial to us, making the component in-house, as we have been doing, or buying it from the outside supplier for $475 a unit. So we'll set up two little columns here, one for make, one for buy, and we'll consider each cost individually. So from a direct materials standpoint, we know that we will incur those costs if we make the component ourselves. So we'll look at this on a total basis for 10,000 units of this subcomponent. So direct materials, $14,000. We also had direct labor cost of $18,750, variable overhead of $21,000, and fixed overhead of $27,000. Over here on the buy side, we know that if we buy this component for $475 a unit, we won't have direct materials costs related to production. We won't have direct labor costs. We won't have variable overhead. It's important to remember we will still have the fixed overhead cost unless we're told differently. Remember, fixed overhead costs cannot be changed based on some change in production activity. So we'll still incur those fixed overhead costs regardless of whether we make this subcomponent. We'll also have the purchase costs of $475 a unit times 10,000 units. So if we determine our total cost here, we see that our total cost of making this subcomponent is $80,750. Our total cost of buying this from the outside supplier is $74,500. So the question is, if we accept the offer to buy it, by how much will our net income change? Well, it'll change by the difference between the two total costs. So $80,750, again, if we make it, versus the $74,500 if we buy it, means a difference of $6,250. All other things equal, we would much prefer to buy the component here and save ourselves $6,250. Part B here asks if Clementi could avoid $5,000 of fixed overhead by buying the component instead of producing. Net income would increase or decrease by how much? Well, in that case, all we're saying is my initial difference of $6,250 from Part A would actually get a bump of the $5,000 savings in fixed overhead that I'm going to realize from buying the component from the supplier. So my net difference will be the sum of those two, or $11,250. For more information about fixed versus variable costs, please visit Chapter 5. Thank you.